Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to, take a closer look at some of the really baffling, sometimes frustrating parts of being human and maybe try to find the operating manual. So today we're asking this really profound question. It's about the roots of why we sometimes do things that seem to sabotage ourselves.
Yeah, things that seem totally illogical.
Exactly. Think about it. You see someone, maybe it's even you, making choices that just actively work against happiness, against what they say they want. Like, why would someone who really wants connection end up pushing people away right when things get close?
Or maybe someone really brilliant who just consistently underperforms, avoids putting their best work out there. It's like they prefer, I don't know, the safety of not quite succeeding.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff. Baffling.
And look, our goal here isn't about judging any of this. It's more like an excavation. We're digging for the root cause of these patterns, these like invisible forces pulling us towards maybe familiar but often painful places.
And the key, the real key to unlocking all this seems to boil down to one question. It sounds simple, but it goes deep. What were the conditions of love when you were growing up? Like, what did you actually have to do back in your family just to get noticed, to feel cared for, to feel loved?
That question has so much power. Because the energy someone pours into something compulsive now, it's almost always an adult echo of the energy they had to put out just to get affection or maybe even just to feel secure as a little kid.
So that frantic feeling you sometimes see.
That relentless quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. That used to be the price of admission. It wasn't optional. It felt like it was required just to exist within the family.
Okay, so let's unpack that. This idea of a contract that just sticks around.
Yeah.
You mentioned this concept from the sources, the parental aegis.
Right, the parental aegis. It basically means that sort of inherited operating system, the rules, the limits, the whole way of being that got set up by your parents or caregivers very early on.
And the point is, our deep minds take a really, really long time to realize we're not under that system anymore.
Exactly. Decades sometimes.
Yeah.
You could be 40, 50 years old, successful, independent on the surface. But a part of your mind, the unconscious part, is still running on the rules from when you were, say, 4 or 5.
Still trying to meet the terms of that old deal.
Constantly. Terrified of breaking rules that haven't actually applied for ages.
That's kind of chilling. Because these aren't things we chose consciously.
Not at all. They're complex, secret bargains made when we were completely dependent. It was the price tag on love, or sometimes even just on feeling safe.
And the range of these demands, it's not always straightforward, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's fascinating, actually. We often talk about the obvious ones, like parents demanding success, the high achiever who grows up feeling like they can never, ever rest because stopping feels like failure. That's almost a classic.
Right.
But the demands aren't always about achieving positive things, quote unquote. Sometimes they're, well, quite the opposite.
Like what? What do you mean?
Well, consider the parent who, maybe subtly, maybe not so subtly, actually needs their child to fail.
To fail. Why would they want that?
It can be about control. Maybe the parent feels threatened if the child becomes too successful, too independent. It might challenge the parent's own sense of status or, expose their own limitations. So the child learns unconsciously that the bargain for love, or at least for staying connected, is stay small. Don't get too big for your boots. Don't outshine me.
And that creates an adult who, gets anxious when they're about to succeed.
Precisely. Crippling anxiety right at the cusp of real achievement. Because subconsciously, they're about to break that original core contract,
Right.
Violate the terms.
Okay, and there are other variations too, right? Some even darker.
Yeah, definitely. The sources mention children who are almost required to be decorative, parents who need their kids to look incredibly attractive, turning them into sort of status symbols. Appearance becomes everything.
Valued over who they actually are inside.
And then there are the really tragic extreme situations where a child might even be incentivized in a way to damage their own bodies, putting on weight, for example.
Why on earth?
It's presented as a defense mechanism, a desperate, unconscious strategy to make themselves less attractive, specifically to repel dangerous advances from a parent who isn't respecting boundaries, an uncontained parent, as the source puts it.
Good grief. So the bargain there is for physical safety itself.
Horrifyingly, yes. A bargain for self-sabotage as the only way to feel safe from a threat within the home. Damaging oneself becomes the perceived lesser of two evils.
So connecting this back, what we're really saying is that these conditions for love They were survival tactics, weren't they? Not blueprints for a happy life.
Exactly. Survival tactics that linger, like a kind of historical tax on everything we do as adults.
Which brings us right back to those confusing adult behaviors.
Yeah.
The compulsions, the striving, this sort of internal misery that just makes no sense from the outside. Let's look at some specific examples, connect the dots.
Okay, let's start with someone who just works relentlessly. The tireless earner, piling up huge amounts of money they could never possibly spend, often at the expense of their health, their family. Why?
What's the likely bargain there? Maybe something like, impress the world, show everyone how capable you are. Otherwise, I won't see you, I'll ignore you.
Yeah, parental attention was conditional, tied directly to visible external achievement. So the adult brain might know logically, I have enough, but the inner child part, still performing like crazy to avoid being invisible again.
So they're not really earning for security, they're earning for affirmation.
Or maybe just trying to finally feel seen. The addiction isn't really to the money itself, it's to that temporary hit of feeling validated when they reach the next target.
Okay. What about the person who seems perpetually seductive, flirtatious with almost everyone, charismatic, but maybe struggles to form, a deep, quiet, lasting bond?
Ah, yes. They're likely fulfilling a totally different kind of duty. The bargain might have been something implicit like, your value is in your charm, your ability to capture attention, how attractive you are, real steady affection. Maybe that just wasn't part of the deal.
So they're stuck always,
Yeah,
auditioning.
kind of, yeah. Constantly seeking that surface level attention because it's the only currency they learned. Real closeness feels threatening because it means the performance has to stop. And if the performance stops...
They fear the love, or even just the attention, will stop too.
Right, exactly.
And then there's the person who's always joking,
Yeah.
the eternal clown, can never seem to be serious, deflects anything deep with humor, often feels like they're hiding, maybe even from themselves.
The emotional regulator. That's often the label for that bargain. The unspoken contract could have been, keep things light. Protect me, the parent, from my own sadness, my depression. If you don't, I might fall apart, or maybe even worse.
So the child felt responsible for the parent's emotional state, believed their humor was literally holding things together.
It can feel that way, absolutely. A huge burden for a child.
And the adult then struggles to feel their own pain, or even let others be in pain around them.
Because the compulsion is still there. Regulate the room. Keep it light. If they stop the performance, stop being funny, that old fear kicks in the fear that something terrible will happen, just like it felt it might decades ago.
It really does sound like invisible shackles.
Yeah.
Like manacles, as the source says.
Yeah.
Restricting how you move, how you choose, long after the person who put them there is gone.
It is, and that intensity, that drive we put into our careers or relationships or even addictions as adults, it's often the very same historically wired intensity we had to use just to get our parents' attention, their gaze. Back then, it felt like life or death. Now it just feels compulsory.
So, okay, this all sounds quite heavy, melancholy even. But you're saying understanding this is actually the way out.
Yes, that's the crucial part. These analyses, even though they can be sad, they open the door. Just seeing the mechanism, being able to name the bargain, that's the first absolutely essential step towards freedom.
You can't fix what you can't see.
Exactly. Once you can clearly see, I'm only doing this thing because it was basically forced out of me to survive back then, well, the pattern starts to lose its grip.
It stops being just who I am.
Right. It becomes something learned, something historical, an old survival strategy that's now out of date.
The sources talk about this moment of realization as a kind of double recognition. What does that mean?
It's like two things click into place almost simultaneously, and it's a real turning point.
Okay, what's the first part?
The first is finally being able to feel real sadness, real compassion for your younger self, for that little kid who had to twist themselves into knots, become the entertainer, the high achiever, maybe even the self-saboteur just to get basic care or attention. You can finally mourn how unfair that was.
Grieve for what that child had to do.
Precisely. And the second recognition, which is just as important, is realizing I am not operating under those rules anymore.
The old context is gone.
It's gone. The original threat, whatever it was, abandonment, disapproval, danger, it's not the same now. The people who imposed those conditions, they don't hold that same power over your fundamental safety or your worth anymore.
That's incredibly powerful. The realization that the old contract is actually void.
It is. And with that comes the adult privilege, the agency, to start seeking attention and care based on who you genuinely are now.
Not based on the distorted version you had to be back then.
Exactly. You don't have to keep being the clown or the relentless performer or whatever it was, just to feel like you exist or matter.
You get to choose new terms.
You get to choose. You can actively look for people, partners, friends, communities who value you for things that align with your true self. Your quietness, maybe, or your depth, your integrity, your vulnerability, whatever feels authentic now. Not the old, distorted metrics from childhood. That's what finding less cruel conditions of love really means.
So let's try and wrap this up. The core idea of this deep dive.
Yeah.
Those really strange, self-defeating things we do as adults, they're probably not random acts of weirdness.
Probably not. More likely, they're the leftovers, the residue of a forgotten contract you made as a kid just to get love. You're still paying a kind of emotional tax for a deal struck long, long ago.
And the big takeaway, the real privilege of being an adult isn't necessarily being free from conditions entirely.
Right, because healthy relationships do have conditions, expectations, give and take.
But it's the freedom to choose those conditions.
Yeah.
Consciously. You get to decide what you're willing to give and what you need to receive moving forward.
It's about finding your own, less distorted, hopefully much kinder conditions for connection and love.
So maybe the invitation for you listening is to just observe.
Yeah.
Notice those moments of unnecessary compulsion in your own life. Those times the energy feels way out of proportion to what's actually happening now. And just gently ask yourself, is this me now? Or am I still running on a 4-year-old survival plan?
That's the conversation to continue internally. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. Well, thank you for diving deep with us today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll catch you next time.